I've seen Titan Souls get compared to Dark Souls several times, especially when it was released in 2015. And sure, if you want to simply boil down Dark Souls into a difficult game, then Titan Souls definitely fits the bill. I feel, however, that this kind of comparison is pretty flawed, because assigning difficulty to only one game ignores the fact that there were many difficult games before Dark Souls and that it didn't invent difficulty and mastery of a skill in order to beat a game. And it's also not just difficulty that makes Dark Souls appealing. Still, there is one way, at least to me personally, where Dark Souls and Titan Souls are very similar. I bought Titan Souls in a bundle in 2016 and put about an hour and change into the game. In fact, you can still see my first attempt at beating this game in my save files, where I've managed to kill 6 Titans. And then I just kinda gave up on the game. And that's exactly the same thing that happened to me with Dark Souls when I first picked it up. I played through the tutorial, didn't get the combat, couldn't even beat the first boss in the tutorial, and just stopped playing the game for a couple of years. It's the same frustration that drove me away from Titan Souls eventually, after banging my head against the same wall over and over again. Both games took a second attempt to finally click with me to the point where I could finally finish them. That doesn't mean that I consider both games to be on the same level of quality though. I loved playing Dark Souls once I finally got into the groove, and exploring the world of Lordran or reading about all the stuff other people found in the game was really interesting. Titan Souls, by comparison, has much less to offer beyond its difficulty. A much more prominent influence seems to be Shadow of the Colossus, actually. Titan Souls is mostly about fighting tough boss battles, and to the game's credit, it manages to come up with a surprising number of varied gimmicks for all the battles that make the most of the limited moveset available to you. Because all you can do is run, dodge, and fire your arrow. Yes, you heard right, arrow, singular. You have one arrow, and once you've fired it, you have to retrieve it to get another shot. Fortunately, the arrow can be summoned back to your location by pressing and holding the fire button again, but this move leaves you largely defenseless since you can't move or dodge while doing it. Oh, and you also can only take a single hit and then you're dead. You can see where the difficulty comes from. Still, I like this idea of boiling down the gameplay to a few very basic actions and just seeing how far that can carry you. Because in order to take down the bosses, you can't just spam your arrow at them in a battle of attrition. The point of the bosses is to get a single hit into their weak spot, so many of the battles require you to first figure out where the boss's respective weak points are and how you can manage to hit them with your arrow. Some are more obvious than others, where the weak spot is in plain sight and the goal is simply to align yourself or the arrow properly to hit it, while others require you to pay a bit more attention to the boss's behavior in order to figure out their weak spot. And that's pretty much it. You have 19 bosses to kill if you want a true ending, and other than that, there's very little to do in the game. And I feel that that particular fact is probably why Titan Souls doesn't resonate with me all that much. It has this slightly Zelda-esque overworld with gorgeously designed locations that would lend themselves to some excellent environmental storytelling, and it even has hints of that with a couple of the murals you can find all over the map. But it's never really elaborated upon to any great degree. The secret final boss might be called Truth, but all it does is make the previously unreadable symbols turn into regular Latin alphabet. And there's nothing to decipher afterwards beyond the names of the bosses. Heck, even the only Titan that talks in the game, the Elder, has little to say beyond a few cryptic lines that hint at your player character having paid some kind of price for that arrow you get to shoot around, and it even calls it an abomination for some reason, but nothing is ever expanded upon. I'm kinda reminded of Hyper Light Drifter or Fez, games that also implemented some fantasy alphabet behind which, once you translate it into plain English, nothing much of interest gets revealed. I guess what rubs me the wrong way about games like this is that they use all the trappings of other works that intend to evoke a kind of mythic atmosphere and want to convince you that the world you're exploring, which is typically reduced to ruin, is millennia old with a rich history of things that happened in the past that would somehow explain its current state. But then, nothing of the sort is ever delivered. And unfortunately, unlike Fez or Hyper Light Drifter, Titan Souls has nothing to offer outside of the boss battles. Sure, there are a handful of puzzles that you can solve that lead to more boss fights, but it's not like they're all that tough and the payoff is just another boss battle. And that's kind of a shame. It feels like the gorgeous visuals and the fantastic soundtrack are kind of wasted on such a simplistic idea, where all the bosses could have just been put into rooms right next to each other or even selected from a menu, instead of having this, for its purpose, over-designed world map that does nothing but add a commute between the bosses. Now, I don't want to end this review by saying that Titan Souls is a bad game or that you shouldn't play it. If you like a meaty challenge and don't mind a profound lack of any narrative, lore, or world building, then give this a shot. But I'd advise you wait for a sale or something, because because I don't feel like $15 for this is an appropriate price. Not when the same $15 could get you something like Hollow Knight that actually tells an engaging story, or Fez, which even though it has no narrative, at least completely drowns you in insanely difficult puzzles.